She carefully tries to make sure that Jaewon understands what she is saying, and Jaewon calmly responds that he does. He knows exactly who he is, yet the place where he belongs has long since lost its meaning, because the moment he enters the tower, every relationship he once had on Earth becomes irrelevant. In their place, he gains new comrades and shared memories, bonds forged through survival and battle. However, when the tutorial comes to an end, those comrades vanish like a mirage, and although they are likely still alive somewhere on Earth, the only clear reward left to Jaewon is that he alone retains every memory while the world resets. None of them remember him, nor do they remember the time they spent together inside the tower. Because of this, Jaewon states that he does not remember anything about the red-haired woman. She refuses to believe him and begins shouting, concluding that he must be something monstrous, perhaps the might of the abyss itself. As she reacts, Jaewon's weapon begins to vibrate, drawing his attention, and when he lifts it, the blade shifts its shape and devours another weapon that Jaewon offers to it. The sight shocks the red-haired woman, who immediately recognizes it as a spirit weapon, and the other party members also notice, realizing that such a rare object stands right before them. Jaewon, however, remains completely unaware of their stares. The woman struggles to accept that someone like Jaewon has disrupted her plan to eliminate the party's leader, and after a brief pause, she offers him a deal, asking whether he wants to hear it. She introduces herself as Mino and gives a simple explanation of chaos, after which the two of them speak openly about the party traveling with them. Mino reveals that they belong to a notorious clan known as Black Fox and tells Jaewon that they are not trustworthy, directly asking him to kill them. She adds that even if he refuses, he will soon understand her warning, since they will inevitably come after him themselves. When night falls, the party leader announces that they will stop and camp, explaining that moving further might provoke a horned monster nearby. Jaewon, aware from the map that a village lies not far away, decides to observe their actions rather than intervene. At this point, Jaewon is a second stage awakened, which allows him to comprehend items and matter within chaos, while the other party members quietly assess him among themselves. They conclude that his spirit power is low, even lower than the leaders, and assume that his ability to kill the Beehorn comes solely from relying on a spirit weapon. Jaewon, meanwhile, is puzzled, since Beastrain once claims that items from the Tower of Nightmares are nothing special, yet here people are clearly coveting them. One thing remains certain to him, and that is the fact that chaos is not the almighty land. When the Black Fox clan finally begins to move, Mino attempts to warn Jaewon, but he simply lies where he is, unmoved. She urges him to use the spirit weapon to deal with them, only for Jaewon to reply that he no longer has it, explaining that he lends it to someone who wants to examine it during night watch. The leader mocks him openly, pleased that Jaewon appears unarmed, and declares that he will deal with both Mino and Jaewon quickly so he can return to sleep. Enraged, Mino hurls insults at the entire group and releases her power, and at the same time, Jaewon watches with interest, eager to finally see her true abilities. The Black Fox members advance, with eyes filled with killing intent, confident that their numbers will overwhelm the two of them, but with a single swing of her hand, Mino instantly eliminates two members. She pulls out a black dagger and throws it at another, the force of the strike enough to vent her fury, and she casually apologizes for throwing it too hard. Her anger continues to rise, and she tells the remaining members to come at her all at once, standing her ground without hesitation. The leader has been suspicious of Mino from the beginning, but now he is certain that she is the Witch of Massacre, and he demands to know who hired her to carry out assassinations in the Dark Forest. Mino shows little regard for him and replies that the Black Fox clan has slaughtered countless non-adapters, so chaos is naturally full of people who want them dead. In response, the leader raises Jaewon's spirit weapon, while more Black Fox members emerge from behind him, surrounding the area. He remarks that if a spirit weapon can fall into his hands so easily, then perhaps there was no need to summon his master in the first place. Clant, the clan master of the Black Fox, appears, revealing himself as a third stage adapter, and announces that half of the clan has gathered solely to hunt Jaewon. Mino laughs bitterly and remarks that it is almost an honor for her to warrant such a large mobilization, then turns to Jaewon and apologizes, admitting that she can no longer protect him. She hands him an escape stone that closely resembles the Mare stone and explains that it is a stone of escape capable of teleporting him to the nearest fortress, adding that she possesses only one and urging him to use it. Jaewon instead asks her whether she would return to the past if such a path existed, and Mino answers without hesitation that she would never go back after surviving such a harsh life, declaring that if she dies, she will die today and never flee into the past. At that moment, Jaewon steps forward and states that Mino will not die today, drawing his sword as he moves to confront the Black Fox clan himself. The leader hastily casts a spell to strengthen his subordinates, flames erupting across their bodies. Yet the enhancement means nothing as Jaewon cuts through them with ease, slaughtering them one after another. When he reaches Clant, Jaewon cleaves straight through his chest without slowing down. Behind Clant stands a red-haired man holding Jaewon's sword, and as Jaewon approaches, the man immediately drops to his knees and offers the weapon back with trembling hands. With the spirit weapon returned to him, Jaewon uses a light thrust to finish off the remaining Black Fox members, leaving none standing. The sight shocks Mino, who had initially believed Jaewon to be reckless for allowing his sword to be taken, assuming he was either foolish or unaware of danger, only to realize that the truth is far simpler, as he is overwhelmingly strong. She once again asks who he truly is, and Jaewon replies by asking if she has already forgotten, reminding her that she knows his identity, then teasing her by asking whether she has lost her memories as well, which leaves her flustered. She quickly changes the subject and asks about the escape stone she gave him, but Jaewon calmly refuses to return it, saying that he no longer has it. In truth, he has already destroyed the stone. Sometime later, Jaewon sits beside a bonfire and gazes up at the night sky, noting how peaceful it feels, while Mino frantically searches the surrounding area, complaining that because of one clueless man, she now has to look everywhere for the missing stone. Jaewon interrupts her and says that he believes she already understands his identity as a human, which confuses her, prompting him to ask whether she herself is human. When she answers that she is, Jaewon replies that this alone is enough reason for him to befriend her. The statement only confuses her further, but she does not dwell on it. The following day, the two of them walk toward the village together, and along the way, Mino remarks that she envies Jaewon for not remembering how he arrived in chaos. Curious, Jaewon asks how she herself came to this place, but Mino warns him that if he truly understands what he is asking, he will come to regret it. Their conversation ends as they reach Gorgon Fortress, where Jaewon immediately notices an altar that closely resembles the summoning circle from the first floor of the Tower of Nightmares. Without warning, people begin appearing on the altar, screaming in panic and confusion, and Jaewon recognizes that expression all too well, having seen it countless times before. Mino explains that those who arrive in chaos are people who die in the tower across many different worlds, and she tells him not to ask how they ended up here, as she welcomes him to Chaos, the land of the dead. Before long, a group of officers approaches the altar to manage the situation, handing out blankets and ordering the newcomers into lines, as the captain instructs his men to escort them directly to the speech hall. Mino recognizes the captain and calls out to him by name, James, explaining that she happens to be passing through the fortress and asking him to let her through since they know each other. James refuses, telling her that the rules have recently changed due to new policies from above, and that anyone entering the fortress must now present a certificate. Unfazed, Mino produces a horn taken from the bee horn and offers it as a bribe, which James accepts without hesitation. He then turns to Jaewon and asks for his certificate, and when Jaewon admits he has nothing of the sort, Mino teases him, saying she will help only if he asks her nicely. James reiterates that without a certificate, Jaewon cannot enter the fortress, prompting Jaewon to reach into his clothes as if preparing to do something else entirely. This makes Mino uneasy, as she wonders whether Jaewon is about to slaughter the guards and force his way inside, and knowing what he is capable of, she cannot entirely dismiss the possibility. Before the situation escalates further, another voice cuts in, demanding to know what is happening at the gate. The speaker turns out to be Carlton, the chief of the northern checkpoint, known as the strictest and cleanest checkpoint in all of Chaos. Carlton steps in front of James and demands an explanation, and James quickly responds that Jaewon is attempting to enter the fortress without a certificate. Carlton immediately states that such a thing is not permitted, and when Jaewon asks why, Carlton begins reciting the law that forbids it. As he does, his power activates, forcing everyone nearby to kneel as the law manifests as his skill, the Gorgon Restraint Act. With a single swing of his sword, Jaewon frees both himself and Mino from the binding force, calmly stating that he has no interest in Carlton's laws. He adds that he does not need a certificate, as he will prove his identity in another way. Carlton ignores him and invokes another legal skill, releasing a white chain meant to bind Jaewon, but once again, Jaewon breaks free with ease, leaving the surrounding guards stunned. Casually, Jaewon asks whether he can simply do what Mino did earlier and bribe his way inside, a question that drains the color from James's face as he panics at the possibility of being exposed. Without waiting for a response, Jaewon throws an object toward Carlton, paying no attention to Mino's reaction or the shocked guards around them. Seeing this, James shouts in outrage, accusing Jaewon of daring to bribe the checkpoint chief and demanding his execution. Carlton raises a hand to stop him and states that he has been waiting for Jaewon, identifying him as the messenger of the Greens. And just as the checkpoint devices scan Mino, they display a warning that her soul corruption has exceeded 15% and recommend immediate medication. Mino explains that soul corruption is a chronic condition shared by everyone who lives in chaos, as merely existing in this land causes one's soul to erode over time. Because of this, horned monsters are extremely valuable to humans in chaos, since their horns are the only known medicine capable of reducing soul corruption. Carlton then measures Jaewon's soul corruption, but the device fails to register anything at all and displays a reading of 0%. Seeing this, Carlton smiles and returns the item Jaewon handed him earlier, warning him not to give a soul stone to just anyone and addressing him again as a messenger of the Greens. Jaewon immediately denies being affiliated with the Greens, something Carlton already seems aware of, and Carlton explains that a soul stone is not merely an item that amplifies spiritual power. During the short time he holds it, corruption spreads across his own hand, demonstrating that anyone who is not one of the Greens will inevitably be consumed by it. The Greens alone are capable of carrying a soul stone without suffering corruption. Yet, despite Jaewon not being one of them, Carlton places his trust in Jaewon's soul. He explains that the device cannot measure Jaewon's corruption because his soul is the purest among all those that exist in chaos. As Carlton and James walk deeper into the fortress, James senses his worst fears becoming reality, and Carlton casually remarks that someone at the gate has apparently been letting people pass in exchange for bribes. Meanwhile, inside the village, Jaewon reflects on how unnecessarily complicated things have become, especially since he is now burdened with Mino after Carlton punishes her for not carrying identification by invoking a law act that leaves her in a zombie-like state, silently following him everywhere. While moving through the village, Jaewon asks around for a blacksmith skilled in forging swords, and before long, someone notices the spirit weapon he carries. When they reach a tunnel, Mino regains consciousness, and Jaewon tells her to go her own way. She refuses, insisting that it is unreasonable for him to abandon her after bringing her this far, and assumes that he is still angry because she tried to leave him behind at the gate, claiming it was only meant as a joke. Jaewon responds that she has done enough, explaining that he is now being guided toward the castle and that she will only become a hindrance from this point on. He repeats that they are different and again tells her to leave, but Mino stubbornly follows him anyway, questioning whether he even knows where he is going. Jaewon answers that he is searching for the nightmare, and Mino admits that she might know a place where such a being could be found, leading them to agree to travel there together. Before they can proceed, however, Jaewon notices that several people are following them, men who have done business in the area and now see an opportunity. A group of thugs confronts him and demands that he hand over his sword, but Jaewon flatly refuses. As tensions rise, Mino turns her anger on the youngest thug, who is, ironically, the largest among them, and the situation quickly deteriorates. Growing irritated, Jaewon thrusts his sword through the thug's hand, aiming slightly upward to make the warning unmistakable, then tells the rest to attack him all at once if they intend to fight. Enraged by the injury to the youngest member, the leader orders the group to attack together, and they rush Jaewon as one. Jaewon subdues them with ease, striking them down without killing them, leaving the thugs unconscious. Mino teases Jaewon by asking whether he knows how to do anything other than thrust, and Jaewon answers honestly that he does not, since he has spent 15 years of his life doing nothing but thrusting his sword. Mino then asks why he misses his thrust earlier and ends up blowing apart the roof, and Jaewon explains that he notices someone using a hidden skill above them and decides to scare the person a little, finding the situation irritating. After that brief exchange, they finally arrive at a smithy known as Twilight's Fall. An apprentice in charge of handling customers comes forward to greet them, a young man with a healthy appearance, and informs them that the smithy is extremely busy that day, adding that even if they place an order immediately, it will still take time to complete. Inside the workshop, the apprentices are buzzing with excitement as they gather around a sword made from a quadhorn's horn, eagerly volunteering to carve a jewel slot into it. They declare that whoever succeeds will become the deputy owner for the day, and the smithy's owner, Michael, allows them to try. One by one, the apprentices take turns, but none of them manage to leave even a single scratch on the sword, and Michael grows increasingly irritated as he watches them fail. At that moment, Jaewon quietly steps forward and says that he will try instead. Michael scoffs at him, pointing out that even his apprentices cannot manage the task, but Jaewon calmly presses his index finger against the blade, pierces it cleanly, spins the sword once, and declares that he is now the deputy owner for the day. As he casually toys with the sword, it suddenly crumbles into pieces, shocking everyone in the smithy and immediately angering Michael. His anger stems from the enormous cost of the horn used as material, and he demands to know how Jaewon intends to take responsibility for breaking it so carelessly. Jaewon frowns and apologizes, explaining that he fails to break only the required section and instead destroys the entire sword. This only worsens Michael's temper, prompting him to demand compensation for the material. In response, Jaewon produces a horn taken from a pentahorn, and Michael accepts it without hesitation, even blushing as he stares at the massive horn in awe. He immediately orders his apprentices to close the shop and leads Jaewon into his personal smithy, proudly stating that it is the finest facility in the entire Gorgon region. Jaewon then takes out another horn, and since a pentahorn possesses 5 horns, it is clear he has more, though the sight leaves Michael bewildered. Jaewon explains that he wants a scabbard made from the material, a request that sounds excessive even to Michael, given that they are dealing with the pentahorn's horn. Jaewon hands over his sword, and after checking its status, Michael lets out a low groan and identifies it as a frost dragon sword, lamenting that it is merely a replica. At that moment, the sword begins to emit a strange cry, causing Michael to drop it in shock as it falls onto a Garnak's horn. The sword vibrates violently, opens what looks like a mouth, and begins devouring the horn, leaving Michael staring in disbelief as he realizes that the weapon is a spirit weapon. Once the frost dragon sword finishes consuming the Garnak's horn, it begins to glow, and Michael remarks that he is witnessing something extraordinary, noting that the sword is evolving right before his eyes. The problem, however, is that the material has been completely consumed, but Jaewon calmly says that it is fine and pulls another horn out of his backpack. Standing before the Garnak's horn, Michael realizes that this is the first time in his life he has been given the chance to properly process such a material. He asks Jaewon what kind of shape or form he wants, and when Jaewon replies that he will leave everything to him, Michael's eyes light up. With confidence, he declares that the Master of Dawn will show Jaewon exactly what he is capable of. At the same time, within Gorgon Castle, a middle-aged man dressed in clean, formal attire coughs softly as he takes a sip of tea. Before him, a man clad in dark clothing kneels with his head bowed, reporting that they have lost their target and admitting that he does not even understand how his team was defeated. He explains that he is suddenly knocked unconscious and later wakes up sprawled across a rooftop with no memory of the attack itself. As a third-stage adapter possessing a master-level high-ranking stealth skill, he knows that even higher-ranked adapters would normally struggle to detect his presence, yet the target not only finds him, but incapacitates him effortlessly and without warning. The middle-aged man listens in silence, then remarks that the target may already be at the 5th stage, and if that is the case, they must prepare accordingly. He states that they will gather more men and declares that they will find the target no matter the cost. At that moment, a heavy thud echoes from the underground cells beneath the castle, sending a faint tremor through the stone. Though slight, the vibration is clear to the middle-aged man, whose sensitivity as a high-ranked adapter allows him to feel it immediately, and a long, faint scream soon follows from below. He frowns and mutters for his master to endure a little longer. The next day, loud voices fill a saloon where several middle-aged men gather around an old hologram machine broadcasting a program. On the projection appears a pink-haired girl with a small horn, and the footage soon shifts to a man fighting a massive frost dragon alone, repeatedly stabbing it without pause. The man's face is deliberately censored to prevent the leakage of product information, and the patrons murmur among themselves as they watch the brutal scene unfold. Suddenly, the saloon door slams open and a woman strides inside, revealing herself to be Mino. She walks straight to the bar and takes a seat, her slim waist and fair complexion immediately drawing the attention of everyone inside. But the atmosphere shifts as a violent pressure radiates from her. The men pale, panic sets in, and one by one they flee the saloon. Mino lets out a bitter laugh, and with Jaewon on her mind, she drinks heavily, pouring glass after glass without restraint. Before long, the owner of the saloon appears, Aunt Claire, who scolds Mino for being bad for business. Mino, too drunk to speak clearly, only mutters in response, her words slurred and unfocused. Claire narrows her eyes, having known Mino since their time in the Tower of Nightmares, remembering her as someone weak yet quick-tempered, fond of pranks and trouble, never truly malicious, but always dragging others into chaos. Brushing Mino's hair aside, Claire tells her that she should stop getting involved with Jaewon, warning that he is dangerous. Before Mino can respond, a surge of spiritual energy pierces through the saloon window and strikes her directly. And when she checks the sender, she recognizes Carlton, the Northern Gate captain. In that instant, an oppressive pressure closes in from all sides, and one of the men approaches her cautiously, asking if she is the Witch of Massacre. Despite her drunken state, Mino pulls a dagger from her clothes, but the man steps in close, grabs her hand, and smiles darkly as he tells her that they need her to do something for them. Back at the smithy, Michael finally gives up on crafting the horn, after concluding that the materials level far exceeds his ability to process it. Jaewon calmly places his hand over Michael's eyes and tells him that what matters most is the ability to truly see, and in that instant, Michael's vision changes as his eyes shine brightly and the material before him begins to liquefy, flowing and shifting directly in front of his face. He is drawn into a space where the true form of the material reveals itself. taking shape as a monstrous entity that immediately turns hostile and attacks them. Jaewon tells Michael to steady himself and assures him that he will help, but Michael is overwhelmed by terror at what unfolds before his eyes. Convinced that he must be dreaming, he frantically searches for the exit and bolts from the smithy, leaving Jaewon behind with a quiet sigh. When Michael throws the door open and calls out for help, he is met with a horrifying sight, as his apprentices appear as skeletal figures who calmly ask whether the smithmaster has finished smelting. Panic takes hold of him completely, and in his confusion, another presence addresses him, calling him foolish and declaring that he does not yet deserve to witness that place. Inside the smithy, Jaewon confronts the manifested monster using nothing but a hammer and chisel, fighting without relying on any skills. The creature lunges at him, and Jaewon strikes back, causing it to scream and spew blood. Yet it shows no sign of pain and instead seems to delight in the violence. Witnessing this chaos from afar, Michael is frozen by fear, unable to comprehend what he is seeing. Eventually, Jaewon shatters the horn, bringing the distorted space to an end, and afterward the two speak about the past incident involving the former owner of the smithy. Jaewon then places his hand against the horn once more, and its surface begins to swirl as though reacting to his touch. In the next moment, something incomprehensible occurs before Michael's eyes, as the particles beneath Jaewon's fingers are torn away as if devoured by an unseen force. Jaewon simply shakes his head, while Michael leans in closer, and the sight brings back memories from his youth, when his master once told him that humans could never surpass their limits, a belief that fuels Michael's long-held resolve to become like the Mares despite those words. Driven by that determination, Michael asks Jaewon what he must do to fight against the world itself. Jaewon answers that he must look carefully, not through the system or borrowed authority, but with his own eyes. In that moment, Michael perceives it. The true world, something he knows should not exist yet, stands undeniably before him. As Jaewon dashes toward the spirit beast, Michael's fear burns away, and he grips his chisel once more, throwing himself back into the work. Using everything he has, Michael resumes crafting the horn, and by the end of the day, they finally complete a scabbard worthy of the spirit's sword. Jaewon names the newly awakened weapon Lone Wolf, and the name is carved carefully into the scabbard. When the time comes to part ways, Michael asks Jaewon how he appears through Jaewon's eyes, and Jaewon answers that Michael looks human to him, even though Jaewon can see that everyone else in Chaos appears only as skeletons. And as Jaewon moves through the town, Mino reappears, and when he asks what is going on with her, she falls into step beside him and follows along. She bluntly admits that she originally intends to kill him, explaining that she could live comfortably by taking all the spirit stones he carries. Yet, she hands him a bag of clothes instead, calling it her way of apologizing. After that, she asks what he plans to do next. Jaewon answers that he already knows how to meet the Mare and intends to seek him out to ask about the illusion tree and the path to the abyss, adding that he does not plan to return afterward since he is, in the end, only human. That answer angers Mino, and she snaps back, demanding to know who he thinks he is to say something like that because it wounds her deeply. She insists that even if the people of Chaos are not as fearless as Jaewon, they are still human, yet no matter how many times they are saved, the truth does not change. What the question reveals to Jaewon is the true nature of the world itself, a place ruled entirely by numbers and data, where people willingly sell their souls just to raise their values. Mino breaks through the invisible barrier around her and asks him directly whether she looks human or not, and as she says her farewell, claiming that they will never meet again, her form shifts and she appears human once more. The people of Chaos are said to be dead souls who arrive here after dying in the tower, but Jaewon is different because he reaches Chaos by surpassing the limits imposed on humans, breaking through the ceiling of the tower and climbing here by his own strength. Later, when Mino returns to the bar and opens the door, she wonders how things could have turned out this way, only to find the place in ruins and a group waiting for her inside with Claire taken hostage. They belong to the Forbidden Heaven clan, led by an elder named Janya, who asks calmly how Mino manages to return alone. Mino draws her dagger and tells him he is more naive than he appears, asking whether he has ever seen someone who keeps her promises, while making it clear that the person she left with will not be returning. She attacks, declaring that Jaewon will only bring destruction to Chaos, and Janya comments coldly that the witch has lost her mind. He releases his shadow to fight her, but she cuts it down with ease, and as she strikes the last one, her dagger shoots toward Janya, forcing him to draw his sword and counter. His blade lands, injuring her, while Claire remains held hostage throughout the fight. For her final attempt, Mino unleashes her ultimate technique, releasing 8 daggers at once, but Janya destroys them effortlessly and mocks her technique as cute. He threatens to tear her apart himself as she collapses and loses consciousness, and the last thing she can think of is Jae-won. She wishes she could return to the past and follow him from that point, hating how everything has unfolded. As Janya raises his sword to strike her down, suddenly an attack descends from the sky, and although Janya manages to block it with his sword, the impact forces him back. Jae-won appears beside Mino, and she asks why he is here instead of destroying the world as he claimed. Jae-won answers calmly that the clothes she gives him do not fit, so he comes to return them. At the same time, Janya realizes that Jae-won is the one who takes the spirit stone, and his men laugh, amused that Jae-won saves them the trouble of hunting him down themselves. Jae-won asks Janya whether they are the ones working with the Mare and orders them to summon Mare here and now. Janya stares at him as if he has lost his mind, while Mino urgently tells Jae-won that Janya is a 4th stage adapter. The members of the Forbidden Heaven clan immediately spread out and rush him together, shouting that they will teach him a proper lesson. Jae-won drives a standard thrust straight at Janya, but Janya narrowly avoids it, and in that instant realizes that he cannot defeat Jae-won head-on. Backing away, Janya seizes Claire and presses a blade to her throat, threatening to kill her if Jae-won takes another step. Mino screams for Jae-won to save Claire, but his thoughts momentarily drift toward the simple answer of cutting down anything that stands in his way. Mino grabs him desperately and cries out that Claire is human, and the words stop him short. As Jae-won looks past appearances and glimpses Claire's true essence, she screams at him to attack without hesitation. Instead, Jae-won thrusts his sword into the roof, and a massive pillar of light erupts upward, piercing beyond the sky and shattering the barrier that had been deployed around the bar. The surge alerts the guards of Gorgon Fortress, and Carlton arrives almost immediately with his men, greeting Jae-won and demanding to know what is happening. Jae-won calmly states that Carlton arrives at the perfect time and accuses Janya of violating the law, explaining that the group intends to use the bar as a foothold to scheme with the mayor and ultimately destroy the world. While Jae-won himself intends to destroy chaos, Carlton does not hesitate and activates his authority, deploying silver restraints that instantly suppress the situation. He summons an axe formed from his authority and declares that any further resistance will be meaningless. Janya refuses to yield and lunges forward, striking Carlton with his sword, and the clash sends a shockwave rippling through the bar as Janya's blade cracks upon impact with the axe of light. Gathering all his strength, Janya leaps into the air and attempts another strike, but Carlton releases chains of light once more and effortlessly slams him to the ground. Moments later, with the axe pressed against his neck, Janya finally surrenders and remarks that he has heard Carlton is as naive as he is righteous. As he speaks, Janya suddenly throws a poison gas bomb into the bar, filling the space with a spreading black cloud. Everyone barely manages to escape outside as Janya flees with his remaining men, commenting that he never expects to use the black cloud here. Before they can get far, the clan elder Seolrang appears, questioning whether the Witch of Massacre is truly powerful enough to force Janya into using such a measure. Janya reveals that the silver restraint has already been activated, trapping Jae-won, Mino, and Carlton inside the affected area. Moments later, Seolrang sees Jae-won emerge from the bar while dragging Mino to safety and asks for information about him. At the same time, Jae-won notices figures hiding among the trees and casually performs a slight thrust in their direction. Janya admits that he is also curious about Jae-won, implying that he has no idea who he truly is. The fact that Jae-won remains unharmed after exposure to the black cloud leaves them stunned, and they remark that they have never heard of an emerald bug without antennae. And as Jae-won sets Mino down, he looks at the 4 remaining members of the Forbidden Heaven clan and finds the situation increasingly irritating to deal with. That's it for today. If you enjoyed the recap, make sure to subscribe, like, and leave a comment. Signing off.